Welcome to Turning the Tide. This is episode 5 of Jumashi and African Young Surveyors actually in conversation with you and your voices. And I'm so pleased that this month we're going to talk about the essence of leadership. And this is about defining what leadership is for you and therefore enabling you to have your voice and adding why it matters in volunteering. And I'm in conversation, I'm so pleased to say, with Israel Tawio, who's based over in Nigeria. Good morning, Israel, and hello. So morning, Israel, thanks for joining this month. I just wanted to go through a little bit to set the context of what leadership, in my view, is anyway. And I would start with saying that leadership, it really is a journey. Importantly, a lifelong journey. It's not something that we all develop just like that and quickly. It's very much something that happens as we go forward. More of that when you and I are talking. But we all know that, our world is increasingly complex. And in order to deliver both in our communities, but professionally, then leadership and understanding your own style of leadership is important. Because this journey is not so much one that you just do on your own as an individual. It actually happens with an awful lot of feedback and reflection with others. So you give and they actually return. You give back and they return. And this two-way process develops you, it develops them. So the essence of leadership, and it's so hard to really say in one or two sentences what it is when you're talking about what's my leadership. It's so hard to define. But as Professor Bennis said, like beauty, it depends on what it is to you. But you certainly know it when you see it. And whoever you read or listen to about leadership is all drawn from a real backdrop of a lot of thinking over the centuries. So Confucius, the great Chinese philosopher, talks about transformational process, expressing the best of yourself, but actually to encourage others. And this word others comes up an awful lot. And in the 20th century, this professor here, Foley, talked about it, that it comes from anywhere, regardless of your position. We'll come back to that point later. But you grasp the total situation. And you remember I said that word others? Well, here, Foley is saying to serve a common purpose. And the best thing I like about what she was saying is it requires a pioneering spirit that would challenge and blaze a new trail by seeing possible new routes. So the way you express your leadership, Tawio, and everybody out there is going to be completely different to the way I might express leadership. So Israel, there's a bit of backdrop, and I know you know some of this, and I also know, importantly, that your faith is so important, and that you take lead roles within your church as a pastor. And you mentioned to me when we were talking about a program that you're doing for the young to grow their initiative. Can you just broadly, bear in mind we're talking leadership, what is it? How did it come about?
Thank you very much, Dan. You're right about my involvement in my church and as a speaker. And it's born out of passion, out of desire, out of the things that are necessary. In my almost 10 years of being an academic staff of my institution and almost 80 years of leading and pastoring youths at my fellowships within the same environment, I must confess I've seen this disconnect between youths and their careers. They come around, they're admitted into the school, they come to our fellowships, and then they end up graduating without having what I would call an evidence for their attendance in that institution. And so myself and a couple of more friends came together to put up some 8-week series just to impart them and just to let them know that this journey of academics should lead them from their academics or education to a career, and then help them take initiative, help them take responsibility for themselves and then for even the larger populace. And a couple of friends I mentioned, people like Mr. Kana Oluyori and then one of my friends, Nathan Moundy. So we both came together and pulled together some lessons we know are vital for these young ones to be able to learn appropriately and then be able to put these things to use. Now, one of them is starting right and finishing strong, considering the building blocks for academic success. And again, we considered finding the missing piece, then creating your own log, choosing yourself, fighting distractions to academic excellence, because these are things that really impede the success that students should attain and invariably stands against their career in the future. Then we spoke about, or we are speaking about stretch for success. I think I have maybe 2 or 3 more of the topics left out that I have not mentioned. Things like character building and then strategies for winning the war against unemployment. Of course, in a country like Nigeria, these are issues that needs to be considered by youths, both young surveyors and young people anywhere in the world. Yeah, so these are reasons why we are considering things like
I mean,
this.
have any of your cohort, have you run it before, or is this really an absolute new program? You've just started it now, or have you been running it for a few years or months even?
Yeah, during my pastoring experience and my experiences of leading youths, we've had instances when we just come together once in a month or once in a year sometimes just to give messages like this. But at the beginning of this semester, and when I eventually realized I'm going to be 10 years working as an academic staff of my institution, I felt like there needs to be more to be done to these youths. And then we decided that, okay, let's have this not just as a one-time encounter, but let's have it as an 80 weeks program that everybody who enrolls in it who can be sure that they've had the right messages in the right arrangement that they should have it, and then we'll wait for them to just implement the lessons that have been learned.
And it's almost, and it reminds me of a quote, which also was the essence of leadership. And that quote was, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think you've just encapsulated that very essence of leadership.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, with your sights and, you know, you're bringing them on and seeing a way for them to go. Amazing. And what you've just said, Israel, is something that, you know, we all know this man. I mean, he's my hero, you know, everybody's hero, I think. And his reflective fact is that expressing leadership to transform something requires taking responsibility, courage, and the will to act. And why I put this up is because I know your role in your university, and I just wanted to, you know, you're an assistant general secretary of the Academic Staff Union. I just want you to talk about your leadership role in that a little bit, briefly.
Thank you very much, Diane. As the Assistant General Secretary of my Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics in my institution, I've had to consider the interest of staff and then that of the students, which is the primary purpose of the institution, and then to match them together to strike a balance between the two of them, because there are times when the welfare of staff are at stake, and then the students as well want to continue with their semester. And we all know that one way for some of our leaders to actually understand and know where it pinches the foot is probably to ground the system, which is one thing we don't like to do normally, except when we discover that the leadership over there is not recognizing the rights of our own members. And so I've had to consider all these things, and I've had privileges to lead both the young, my co-hosts, and then the elderly in this group I'm mentioning. And then I do this with utmost joy, I must confess, because I've always had to, at some point, jettison my personal interest and then look at the bigger picture that affects the larger populace. So one thing I think we must do as Africans is to live up to responsibility, because if we can see the things that affect our people pay attention to it, I think we'll get the required courage that we need to act and make the right and better decisions we need to make. And also, as a leader, I must confess that we need to probably lead with the type of courage we have inside of us, we have derived from our members, and then show them this courage so that they can be able to act in the same way towards things that affect them. And I think as citizens of Earth, we may really need to sit ourselves down and then pay attention to our inner potentials and see how we can be able to draft out and bring out some unique things that solve our unique challenges.
Yeah, and you're talking, you have talked about the interplay between responsibility, courage, and the will to act, of which you've just demonstrated exactly what you were saying. And also this perception that the leader is only for those in positions of power. It actually, leadership has got to be about anybody. You can lead from behind meaning that you're not in that top position, you're not in the top position in your university, but you're still a leader, even though you're, a couple of ranks down, as it were. And I don't mean that dismissively. But, if everyone else feels a degree of powerlessness, there's a tendency to sit back. And you've got to expect the person at the top to fix everything.
Yeah.
That's not the case, is it? And that's what you're actually standing up to do. So let's move on then a little bit on this thought about leadership.
Yeah, obviously it's not the case.
Yeah. So you've been challenging the process by searching for opportunities when you were doing your work in your church, and you've inspired a shared vision there by giving them a future vision. But in this role, you're enabling others to act, actually, and perhaps modeling the way forward. But what can I ask you about, you and the young surveyors of FIG, you've been developing your own leadership and those of others in VCSP. Can you briefly outline what this is and your involvement, and how the cornerstones of this initiative meets the actions and behaviors of leadership?
Yeah, thank you very much, Diane. In 2018, I volunteered under the Volunteer Community Surveyor Program at Padel District of Northern Uganda. And in the COVID-19 lockdown of 2020, the opportunity came up, which made me appointed by the FID Young Surveyors Network to lead the Wisdom Workshop part of the initiative. And in 2021, January precisely, we had our first Wisdom Workshop of a team, and the core team of the Wisdom Workshop came together, a team of vibrant young persons, and I must confess that we were able to have about more than 100 participants across the entire nation, across the entire world now, including Europe and the United States and Australia, everywhere. We had good participation from so many parts of the world. And I must confess that this only happened because we had a vibrant body of young surveyors coming together with passion, with a vision to drive the objectives and to make things available for people. Like I have it in my own bio that I believe that through volunteerism can an inclusive society be achieved. And I think this is one of the things that happened in our midst. Of course, the VCSP has 4 core values. One of them, and the first of them, is volunteerism. We see ourselves as people that should volunteer our skills, our time, and to solve problems of others rather than focusing on ours. Because at some point in life, we always discover that solving your own problems alone and then going far without the rest will always drag you behind. You remember this saying that says, if you want to go fast, you may go alone. Or if you want to go far, then you better go with others. So we come together and with a volunteerism spirit to volunteer our skills and expertise. And then second of the values of that team is curiosity. I must confess, I've never seen a team of curious persons like I have been privileged to see in the VCSP core team. To be honest, I love to see, I don't know if I'm permitted to mention names, but these guys have been so amazing. Sustainability is another thing which we are looking at. And right now, as we're making this video, I understand that as the team is trying to recruit more second in charge. 2 ICs to join the team, such that from where we are getting to, while some of us are dropping out, some people are joining in to sustain the energy and then to keep up with the good work of the initiative. And we have a goal. We have a very, should I call it a gigantic goal, that at some point in time, we want the VCSP to be a sustainably run program that people can be able to run to it. You come in, you get trained, you volunteer your skill, and then you graduate again to a certain level in life. And then the last of the core values, which I know has been driving the team, is respect. Respect for individual values, respect for core values, respect for the team, respect for everyone around, respect for the countries where we volunteer, respect for their culture, respect for so many things. And these are certain values I know are, or the main core values I know have been driving.
And on that respect thing, I mean, that brings to my mind, the diversity and inclusion in business and professions. It's really capturing that, isn't it?
Yeah, because we have, some of us are not the core. We have in our team, we have people who belong to the surveying part, I mean the geomatics part, like myself, and we have the estate surveyors, we have the quantity surveyors, and everybody comes together. And aside that, we have people from Fiji Island, Shetnais from Fiji, we have claims ourselves from Australia, we have Roshni, we have myself from Africa, David, and so many other persons like that. Everybody coming together. And maybe I should mention this. We had a party some days back. I think you should come and see how well our party went, because it was interesting. The funny thing was that with so many of us had never met physically. I'd never met any of the core team members physically. I mean, addressed them physically. And we've grown to love ourselves, respect our values over the decade. Sorry, not the decade now, sorry. Over the months and weeks that we've been together to produce success that are impacting people.
And, it's, listening to you, it's about, we need to shift our expectation of leadership. A quote of, the truth is that every human being has leadership potential. For some, this will be small. For others, it will be huge. And we just don't know. We can be anywhere in between. But we definitely don't have to be the manager to be a leader. So if we can shift to wherever we are, just like you guys in this team of VCSP, that actually each person has some potential. And we've got to overcome this problem that, we don't have leadership potential, so I'm going to keep quiet. No, you have. And it's just finding that. And so, Israel, you've led us so well into applying knowledge within your own work and your organization, this leadership knowledge of yourself as well as others. So, and I'm not going to go through these questions because people can freeze the video and have a look at it. But when leading change, ask these questions if you really want to bring out your leadership potential as well as those of others. I think, Israel, we're coming to the conclusion that is ongoing. It's also complex because you've got to keep on reflecting and thinking. But these are probably the 4 keys that hopefully our conversation has unpacked. And at the bottom, and I see there's just a couple of words missing, but it's each individual must find out who they are as a leader. It's not who everybody else is. You can take ideas, but it's who you are as a leader. Israel, anything else that you want to add before we close?
If there's anything I want to add, I think I want to appreciate you for this opportunity. I really love the way you drag us all along as young surveyors in Africa. And I remember our first meeting some years back in 2014, and up till now we are still in contact. So thank you very much for all you do for the FIG, for the world community, for the global village. Thank you very much.
Well, Israel, that's really kind of you. And remember, leadership is a journey, and we all grow as a result. But I'm hoping our audience will agree that the essence of your leadership, Israel, you're so authentic and purposeful and positive, and you've been transformational and carry on. You build relationships with everywhere you go, and you really deal with collective action. So I too am impressed with you and your leadership
Thank
skills,
you
and
very
I'm
much.
looking forward to being part of your journey as you go on, and journey of
Thank you very
everybody
much.
in our cohort out there. So I think it's
Thank you very
only
much.
fair to say goodbye to everyone, and look
Yeah.
forward to seeing and engaging with everybody in August for episode 6. So goodbye from me, and Israel, you have the final
Bye,
say.
everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.